Sometimes it's prescription pills.
I tried to take her away from the drugs, and all she would tell me is, "Mom, it helps the pain."
In other cases, it's heroin or fentanyl.
I know that whoever sold Cole the drugs didn't intend to kill him, but they're killing people.
Nationally, 175 people die of a drug overdose every single day. That's one person every 8 minutes. In the Sioux Falls area, there have been at least 20 overdose deaths since the beginning of the year.
It's unprecedented, the number, and many of those are related to heroin or fentanyl or a combination.
Good evening. Ask any state, local, or federal official, and they'll tell you we are in the middle of an opioid crisis. The victims include toddlers, teenagers, 20-somethings, even grandparents. They come from all walks of life.
We don't know who it's going to affect next. Drugs aren't just for, quote, poor people. Drug addiction affects everyone. Socioeconomics play no part in it.
That reality is hitting more families every day. Over the next hour, we'll share the stories of people overcome by this dangerous addiction, and we'll show you the grief that families are going through. We're also taking a look at the local efforts by doctors and law enforcement to get ahead of the opioid epidemic. And we're looking at local and national resources. We'll tell you what's available and how you can help and what our community needs. Before we get to those stories, we begin with the inspiration for this KELOLAND News special report. My own daughter, Emily.
I thought she was the most amazing kid in the world. I was so proud of her. First of all, she was intellectually gifted. She was artistically gifted. She was athletically gifted. And I used to always tell her, you know, with so many gifts comes great responsibility, you know, to the world, to bring those gifts to the world. You know, so perhaps it's no surprise since her birth was such a public thing, because I'm in the public eye, that her death is now a very public thing too. And I have to embrace that. I really can't hide from that. So I think it's best if I just tell my story and let everyone out there know what happened to my daughter, because I really believe it could happen to anyone's daughter. It can happen in any family. My baby will be. And it starts with addiction. It was soon pretty evident that the whole drug culture was really attractive to her, and I was really concerned as a mom. I mean, it's hard to know what to do. I really feel for everyone who's out there struggling with a child who has an addiction problem, because you don't know where to turn. And there's so much stigma surrounding this. It's hard to even talk to other people about it. Everything in my instincts, everything told me something is seriously wrong here. And we would see Emily quite a lot. She wasn't living with us. She was 21 years old. But the more time I spent around her before her death, the more alarm bells went off in my head. And so we hired an interventionist to help us get her into treatment. We met on a Saturday, and the intervention was planned for the following Saturday, and my daughter died on a Wednesday. We didn't get that chance. We didn't get a chance to get her into real treatment, to get her real help. And then when I found out what she had been doing, the cause, it was unbelievable to me. The fact that my daughter would be using heroin and needles, my beautiful daughter, who was very privileged, had every opportunity in life, you know, to have a great life, had gone down this road. And it was shocking to me. I consider myself a wordsmith. I write for a living every day. But there are no words to describe the devastation I feel at the loss of my daughter. There is nothing that can even come close to describe the grief and the sorrow and the pain and all of the loss of what she could have been, what if. And as a mom, I have a hole in my heart that will always be there. It is never going to heal. I have other children whom I love, and a husband and family whom I love, but nobody and nothing can replace the loss of my oldest child. And she was only 21. Happy birthday. Well, according to the autopsy reports, Emily had 6 times what would be considered a therapeutic dose of fentanyl for the largest man, and she was just a small young woman. She didn't stand a chance. I mean, that fentanyl killed her almost instantly after she injected it. Her chair sits empty at the kitchen table. I think that is when it really hurts. You know, I look across the table and there's her chair and she's not there and she's never coming back. It's the permanency of it. I was robbed of my daughter. I was simply robbed. No matter what happens to them, no matter who's charged or if anybody is charged directly with her death, while they say they know where she got it from, nothing will ever bring her back. She was a beautiful girl and she deserved to live. And she deserved a chance to get help. And she engaged in risky behavior, but she didn't deserve to die. I've set up a fund called Emily's Hope, because I never gave up hope on my daughter. And I want her life and her tragic death to at least give someone else hope by telling Emily's story and my story of loss and pain and suffering. I mean, I'm opening myself up. I'm being vulnerable to our audience in a way I've never been before. But I do feel it's super important I do that. Because if just one person hears me, if just one person does one thing to save a life, then I don't care about a million naysayers or a million people who don't understand. I just care about that one mother I can stop from experiencing the pain that I have.
The synthetic opioid fentanyl is leading the deadliest drug overdose epidemic in U.S. history. It's cheap, easy to get, and is increasingly being cut by suppliers into street drugs without buyers' knowledge.
They don't really know what they're doing when they're mixing it in there, and if they calculate it wrong by a few milligrams, a person can die with one use.
A recent report called it the deadliest drug in U.S. history. It is what killed my daughter Emily. It's also what killed 26-year-old Ryan Blomberg. 26-year-old Ryan Blomberg could never walk by a piano without stopping to play, often his own compositions. But this gifted and talented young man also battled the demon of addiction. In 2016, he entered treatment and seemed committed to staying clean.
He worked the 12-step program like none other. I mean, his friends in the NA community were totally blindsided because they didn't see any of this coming.
What they didn't see coming was Ryan buying what he thought was heroin in April. Denise got the call her son was found unresponsive in his apartment on a Tuesday afternoon.
So then we waited for 8 weeks for toxicology results to come back before we found out it was pure fentanyl.
I don't think he knew. He wasn't a stupid kid. He was a very, very highly intelligent child. He was just highly intelligent, worked. I mean, none of the symptoms you think of a user. I mean, he had a job, he worked hard.
Randy Thompson's 22-year-old son Cole died 14 days after Ryan.
Fentanyl? What's fentanyl? What's heroin? I've heard of heroin. Everybody's heard of heroin, and you think bums laying in the alley with needles, you know. And I said, you're doing heroin, and it was laced with a deadly drug.
Fentanyl is, I believe, the most radical change in drug trafficking that we've ever seen in this country.
Journalist Sam Quinones has tracked the opioid epidemic through 2 decades, from prescriptions to a rise in illegal drug use.
What you're seeing is that this is now the go-to additive. It's a very, very cheap, extraordinarily potent, supremely profitable additive that you can put on anything.
We have found fentanyl laced into synthetic marijuana.
A person who smokes marijuana drenched in fentanyl is going to become an opiate addict, same with the cocaine.
And there are laboratories in China that have developed or been taken over by criminal enterprises and have been shipping illegally fentanyl into the United States. A lot of times through what's called the dark web.
The Justice Department shut down the dark website Alpha Bay this summer Alpha Bay was a major source of fentanyl and heroin linked to overdose deaths.
But there are other parts of the dark web where you can still order fentanyl and other drugs and hope they arrive in the mail.
And we've got a drug war on our hands. We don't need to worry about bombs. We need to worry about fentanyl.
We all need to work together and root this stuff out. That's the only way we can win.
These grieving parents say the only thing left for them to do now is to speak out about what happened to their children to try to save the lives of others.
God, if you just save one person, anybody, make them think twice.
You don't wake up in the morning saying, geez, I hope something happens to my child because I want to be an advocate for something. But it puts you in a spot where you're left with nothing but that choice to make a difference so that your child didn't die in vain. I never want to think that Ryan's life didn't matter.
Up next, we'll delve deeper into the opioid crisis in KELOLAND, hear from a mother who lost her teenage daughter, and later we'll show you how the community is coming together to save lives.
First, these are the faces of addiction. They were mothers, fathers, somebody's child.
If somebody doesn't help me, she's gonna die. Like, straight up, she's gonna die. He said, well, we're gonna get her into a 90-day program, and by the time she was released out of detox, they didn't have any beds open. And they sent her home.
The pain goes beyond families. Opioids are hurting our community. In October, people of all ages gathered at Falls Park to remember a 17-year-old whose life was cut short. Anya Stefaniuk was born and raised in Sioux Falls and a student at Joe Foss. Now her grieving mother is speaking out, hoping other parents won't have to face a similar tragedy. She shared her story with Perry Groton.
Nicole Westrup says her daughter Anya's blue eyes could light up the world.
Anya, she was a beauty inside and out. She was caring. She had a heart of gold. She loved everything about everybody.
But the light has gone out of Westrup's life with the death of her daughter.
Her world has been shattered. It's been taken. My world's gone. My Anya's gone.
Westrup says a recent family crisis led Anya to turn to pain pills to cope.
She basically would just shut down. And she told me, she's like, Mom, I do this to stop the pain.
Westrup says she tried to get help for her daughter to get off the pills.
I tried to take her away from the drugs, and all she would tell me is, Mom, it helps the pain.
Westrup had hoped her daughter's pill abuse was just a phase.
She loved to take pictures.
She learned how deadly the drugs could be.
Her dad called me and told me, because she lives with her dad. And he said, our daughter's gone. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Our daughter's gone. And he said, she passed away. And everything after that's a blur.
That blur in the aftermath of Anya's death has now given way to a clarity of commitment. Westrup wants other parents to be aware of the danger signs about drug abuse in their own children's lives.
And people need to be aware that this can happen to you, because it happened to my family. And we were not prepared for any of this.
The toxicology reports found Stefaniuk had 3 drugs in her system, 2 of which were opioids. A man and a woman are charged in connection with her death. It's ironic that on the day that my daughter died of an accidental overdose, I was actually working on a story on overdoses and Good Samaritan laws. Now, 7 months later, I have returned to that story, as difficult as it may be, because it is important and may save lives. Good Samaritan laws are supposed to protect friends who are using together when something goes terribly wrong. South Dakota put one on the books in 2017, yet people continue to overdose and die because those around them are too afraid to call police.
Leanna Bernard first shared the story of her daughter Kristen's opioid overdose in 2016.
And they had gone over to, I guess, what's known as a drug house here in town, and when I got to work Friday, an officer come to my work and let me know that she had been found dead at that house. full of people.
Bernard continues to live with the fact that no one called 911.
So instead, while she's dying, they are clearing the house of drugs. One's calling his mom. They're calling everybody except 911. And then even when a mother's called, she also is scared for her son, so she don't call 911 either. She goes to the home.
Bernard says their main concern was clearing out any evidence to avoid going to jail.
The paraphernalia, the drugs, everything that belonged to my daughter, gone. And meanwhile, she's laying there turning purple, dying.
Bernard has played out the what-ifs over and over again in her mind.
In a case like this, we all know that seconds count.
Yeah, they do count. Especially even if I had been called, that the house is only, and I've timed it. I've drove the route a few times, and I could have been there in 2 minutes.
Cases like Kristen Bernard's prompted the South Dakota legislature to invoke a new law granting immunity from arrest and prosecution for those calling for help in a drug-related overdose.
The law is there to encourage those people not to worry about if there are illegal narcotics on scene or if they were using with them, and to help them make that right decision. That is important to keep that one person alive.
And life comes before prosecution. We want to save as many lives as we can, no matter what they're doing.
But prosecutors don't think the message is getting out.
We're still seeing the fatalities. We've had cases where somebody did the right thing, and we utilize this law to dismiss that possession charge against an otherwise criminal defendant. It's been used in the field, but I don't know how much practical effect it is having in those high-stress situations with people that are already making very bad decisions on a horrible drug.
Bernard hopes that as more drug users become aware of the law, they'll do the right thing if someone is dying in their midst.
She's not the only one that has died as a result of somebody not calling 911 out of fear. They are not there to arrest you. They're there to save a life. And it's your responsibility to call them and to save that life. If you don't, I could consider it the same as murder. You are literally letting another human being die.
Immunity is only granted for possession or ingestion and can be granted only one time, but there is no statewide system for tracking when the law is used. It does not apply to those dealing drugs. Overdoses are becoming a bigger problem all of the time. The number of suspected opioid overdoses has jumped 727% in 3 years in South Dakota, from just 18 in 2015 to 149 this year so far.
And the love for that drug was just so intense. I would have done anything to get it, to keep that feeling, to keep everything just okay.
Meet a woman recovering from heroin addiction. Plus, we'll tell you about a program that's helping her get back into society next.
We actually can see changes within the brain tissue. We see that there are changes in the amount of chemicals that are released in the brain. So to me, that is a physiological, there is something happening within the body that makes this a disease, just like diabetics struggle with insulin.
But yet half of the population still doesn't believe it's a disease. Heroin addiction comes with its own stigma, and loved ones may not realize someone is a user because they don't fit the profile. That is the case for 22-year-old Taylor Rotter. She's closely linked with several people who have died of overdoses and those facing charges for distributing the drug. For years, her well-educated mom had no idea her daughter was using heroin.
Oh my gosh, I'm gonna have to take my glasses off so I can see it.
Angie Rotter has a master's degree and counsels troubled kids. But when it came to her own daughter, she didn't see the signs of heroin addiction.
She's charismatic, she's smart, she's articulate. There's no way my daughter's doing something like that.
Angie did, however, suspect something wasn't right.
I just thought maybe it's just, it's just weed, but I knew something was going on.
When she confronted Taylor, she didn't get any answers.
I talk to kids her age for a living, and my child wouldn't open up to me.
Taylor's drug use started at age 14.
Everyone I was around was like a high school thing. People would go to parties, they'd get drunk, they'd smoke weed.
She says prescriptions for painkillers turned her on to opioids.
It just escalated from there because I had the prescriptions for the painkillers, so I was taking them as often as I wanted and all that kind of stuff. And after I had moved out, my boyfriend at the time, he broke his foot at work and was given prescriptions for hydrocodone as well. So once those ran out, we started getting pills from the street, got Oxycontin and all that kind of stuff.
When they ran out of money, Taylor says they turned to illegally buying fentanyl patches stolen from hospitals. Heroin was even cheaper. She says she started smoking it and eventually shooting it.
My love for the drug was stronger than my fear of the needle. I would have done anything to get it, to keep that feeling, to keep everything just okay.
From all outward appearances, Taylor's life looked okay. She had a place to live and a job. Her mom didn't know her electricity had been shut off, and there was seldom food in the fridge. But when Taylor's boyfriend's family informed Angie the two were using heroin, she convinced her daughter to go in for treatment.
I remember going over there to help clean up her house, and it was so disgusting. It was condemnable. There were needles everywhere. And I just thought, I had to take a break and go outside and cry. I was like, I didn't raise her to live like this. You know, but I think as parents it's so easy to assume we've done something wrong. But this little girl is the face of addiction, you know, and it can happen anywhere.
Taylor says a stint at Keystone Treatment Center did little to stop her use. Eventually, she was in trouble with the law.
She got arrested. They had guns pulled on them at the Knights Inn in Sioux Falls. She had rented for some drug dealer, rented a room, and they were all getting high in that room, and law enforcement came in, broke the door down, put guns in their faces, threw them to the ground and arrested them.
She wound up with felony charges and living back at home.
I caught her shooting up in the bathroom one night. My 12-year-old was home, and I was livid.
Then Taylor failed her court-ordered drug test.
And I've told Taylor before, I said, there's nothing I won't do to keep you clean, and if that means I send you back to jail, I will.
Angie refused to bail her daughter out.
And it was really heartbreaking for me to think about my child sitting in jail, but I knew that it was that or death. Because in the meantime, her boyfriend at the time had OD'd several times.
Taylor also knew 10 people who had overdosed and died.
And while I was in jail and I was sober, I thought about all of that. I thought about my friends' kids that are going to have to grow up without their parents. I thought about their parents that are going to have to move on with life without their kids and their siblings and all this stuff and all the potential that I saw in those people that I know their families saw, but they didn't see themselves. And I was able to finally see that in me too. Like, I have this potential to move forward.
After serving time, Taylor went through treatment at the South Dakota Human Services Center in Yankton. She is currently going through drug court.
But after going through this stuff for several months now, I see the benefit of it. Like, I'm getting to know me. I'm getting to know what I want, and I'm getting to know who I am. And I don't think I would have done that if it weren't for drug court. I would have just blown it all off again.
Both she and her mom worry about the possibility of relapse.
Because I knew that this was a struggle that she would have to bear the rest of her life. And as a mom, knowing that kind of anguish is on your child and you're helpless. I'm helpless. I can't fix that for her. And there's no cure for it. It truly is just a day-to-day and sometimes a minute-by-minute process.
I knew death was always something that could happen, but that wasn't something I feared then. But now it is. Like, I don't want to go out and use. I don't want that one more time to be my last time. And that's the reality of this drug, is one more time could be your last time.
Taylor was sober for 8 months, but recently relapsed. She was in drug court for more than 200 days. The program is helping more people who are addicted to heroin and pills.
Amphetamines are highest, but we've seen a 20% uptake on opioids.
Drug court has been combining supervision, treatment, counseling, and support since 2011. Brady Mallory introduces you to Judge Pat Rappel and shows us how drug court works.
Somehow or another, I always thought in my mind that if you give someone a positive touch, it will pay back.
Rappel is a big advocate for drug court, and she says this method allows her to supervise people in the program and interact with them in a different way.
When people come to the court, they're always in trouble. Always in trouble. Why else would you come to the courthouse? But then when you have them come back and they've been doing well, that's a positive reinforcement.
In drug court, there's a team made up of attorneys, law enforcement, treatment counselors, and more to help people who come here. Ripel is quick not to take credit because she says that group is the key to a graduate's success.
You have to give people some type of inner strength that they don't have. You have to help them build that.
The goal is to help people become sober and productive members of their community. Programs like Drug Court are needed now more than ever. We'll show you how hospitals, schools, and other groups are joining the effort.
We know we're not going to arrest our way out of this problem. We need additional treatment options. We need support from the state. We need private entities to stand up and provide, again, more treatment options because these are serious addictions.
It's a matter of life or death.
Who are trying to make what they're selling on the street. They're not scientists, they're not rocket scientists, they're not chemists. They don't have appropriate measures and devices to know exactly what the dose is. And as such, people are dying.
We've all done some crazy stuff, but this is just stupid. This is not even crazy. This is insane to think you're going to survive this. You're going to die.
Getting a loved one who struggles with addiction help can be a matter of life or death. Many who suffer from substance use disorder are unwilling to seek treatment on their own. And South Dakota's current involuntary commitment law can be cumbersome and expensive. One state lawmaker is pushing to change that. You're about to meet a young woman who says an IVC saved her life.
Sina Dover and her 24-year-old daughter Sophie have a close relationship today, but that hasn't always been the case. Sophie's troubles started at the age of 12. She says that's when she started smoking cigarettes and drinking alcohol. By middle school, Sophie says she and her friends were popping pills stolen out of parents' medicine cabinets.
For me, it was definitely how I felt about myself, about life. I was depressed, I was angry, I was hurt, and I wanted to escape reality.
So I was always taking her in to see mental health counselors, you know, counselor after counselor.
What's ironic is that Sina has been in the mental health field for 30 years herself and was still powerless to help her own daughter. After high school, Sophie ended up on crystal meth.
I started smoking it, and then that progressed to shooting it because I just wanted to go hard. That was my goal, was to destroy my life.
Sina recounts getting a call that Sophie needed help.
She was curled up in the fetal position on the floor of the bathroom, and you know, obviously high or coming off, or I mean, it was bad.
Sina says she tried to get her daughter into treatment, but Sophie, now an adult, didn't think she had a problem.
It controlled me. I was a slave to the drug and the lifestyle. Yeah.
When she stopped showing up for work, Sina hunted her down.
Went into the house and found her on the couch, you know, surrounded by needles. She was messed up, really messed up.
Sina checked Sophie into Avera Behavioral Health, but when she got out, she ran away.
Every day, you wait for the phone call. Every day I would wake up and think, is this the day? You know, somebody's going to come to my front door and tell me Sophie's dead, you know, or is this the day I'm going to get the phone call?
Sina began looking into how to have Sophie involuntary committed.
I didn't know how they worked. I didn't know how you did them. So I talked to her counselor that she was seeing at the time, and she had never done an IVC either.
Sina carefully documented everything she'd been through with Sophie, paid court and attorney's fees, and got the commitment papers for her daughter.
I mean, it was horrible to call the police, you know, and have them take my daughter away in handcuffs to detox. But she's alive, you know.
You know what? I was super mad at her, yes. And I'm sure I screamed I hated her over the phone several times when I was in detox. And especially after that IVC, I was livid with her.
You know, and I say, you know, mad or dead? I mean, which would you prefer?
It actually took a second IVC for the drugs to finally loosen their hold on Sophie.
To get clean, it took to be incarcerated for me. There was no other way for me to get clean.
In 2015, Sophie told KELOLAND News how her stay at the halfway house, the Glory House, was also instrumental in her recovery.
Definitely a big stepping stone of saving my life.
Sina and Sophie are committed to continue to tell their story because of how difficult it currently is to commit someone who is struggling with addiction.
Which I think is insane because people die like every day, all the time, from this disease of addiction.
It just seems to me there should be an easier process for intervention.
And to get people to understand this is very important. It needs attention now, not later.
South Dakota Republican Representative Steve Haugard also sits on Minnehaha County's Mental Health Board. Every county in South Dakota is required to have one, and requests for commitments for mental health issues, like suicide attempts or going off medication, go through the boards, not the court system like those for drugs and alcohol abuse. Getting a mental health commitment is free, but the court process for a drug or alcohol IVC can run from $400 to $1,500.
With the number of uses of Narcan in our county in the past weeks and the number of deaths from overdose, we absolutely need to respond to it. And our county isn't any different than anywhere else in the United States right now. Everyone has the same horrendous problem.
Haugard wants to expand the Mental Health Board in order to include involuntary commitments for drug and alcohol abuse.
Well, it's just the system needs to change, and it's one of those things where it needs some attention right now, and hopefully we can give it that this year.
Haugard believes in the long run, earlier interventions will save the county's money by cutting down on jail costs. Sophie is convinced she wouldn't be here if it weren't for her mother's determination to get her help.
The fact that I love living and the fact that I love to love people and to help that's the success for me, is a complete life change.
For most people struggling with substance use disorder, it begins with experimentation in the teens. But why do some people go from pot to pills to heroin? George Clark is recovering from heroin addiction. You'll be surprised where he got hooked on the drug.
Right here.
George and Ashley Clark are parents to Nevaeh and Sky. Ashley works in the medical field, but still didn't realize that George was using heroin.
And then all of a sudden he started just like doing weird things like falling asleep like in the midst of eating or just things, and I was like, what is wrong with him? And I had never seen anything like that.
Ashley was aware of George's history with drugs. He'd spent time in federal prison for selling ecstasy. But George had been hiding his opiate use for years.
So I started doing Oxycontin. I was working on this farm with this kid, and he would steal them from his grandpa, you know.
George's pill habit grew quickly.
I get them for $5, and I'm doing like 10 of them a day, you know. That's 300 milligrams. I got up to 600 milligrams of Oxy and Roxy a day.
When he was sent to prison for dealing, George couldn't get pills anymore. But there was something else he could get.
So I actually didn't do heroin until I went to prison. To federal prison. I started shooting. I never shot anything before until I went to prison.
When George got out on parole, he met Ashley, who was a single mom to Nevaeh. They married in 2016. George struggled to stay clean, and while he'd have short periods of sobriety, they didn't last.
So the thing that really sucks about addiction is that you get to a point to where you feel like, first of all, you're embarrassed of it.
How much does shame have to do with it?
Shame, like, this is the worst thing that anybody could ever do, like, to people, you know? Like, you just get outcasted, you know? Like, you lose your friends, you lose your family. Like, if everybody you care about, like, now the only people you can rely on are other addicts because they're in the struggle and they understand it too.
George's continued use eventually led him to violate his parole, and he ended up back behind bars.
Like, nothing was gonna stop me, and I hated it, you know? Like, I'd cry out to God, hey, will you just take this from me? Like, look what it's doing.
He also saw opioids destroy the lives of those around him.
So in the last year, I saw about 4 people overdose. They all came back, though. One of my best friends, Ivan Warren, he died about a year. He died like a year ago today. I was the first person to ever give him an opiate.
George's addiction is rooted in his childhood.
A week before my 5th birthday, my real dad, he killed himself. He was addicted to drugs as well.
George says he rebelled against his stepfather, who was in the military, and felt he couldn't live up to his expectations. Drugs were his escape. But he credits his wife, Ashley, for not giving up on him.
That's the strongest woman I know. She's just always seen more, you know?
Seen more in you?
Mm-hmm. Always knew that.
Than the addict.
Yeah. She just knew.
And so, when you know that side of a person, you fall in love with that person, and you see them succeeding and doing so well, and then all of a sudden, addiction hits you in the face, and it just slowly starts eating away at everything that you that you have built, and but there's always that person that you remember that is in there.
George was put on the prescription medication Suboxone to combat his opioid addiction, but he says that didn't work. Neither did a second stint in prison.
If you're not really ready to stop, none of these things are gonna help anybody. Doesn't matter what it is. You literally have to hate this with everything that you have. The only way you'll ever stop.
George struggles to stay clean, but is making progress.
There's always hope, and there's people around who care and who are willing to walk with you.
The Clarks are learning to just take it day by day.
If he were to slip up again, he might. That doesn't mean that you're a failure and that you start over at day zero. You just get back up and you continue walking.
If I take every day as it is and I take it humbly, thankful for what I'm given.
For someone who hasn't experienced this kind of addiction, it can be difficult to understand why people struggle to stay sober.
I always tell my patients, you may take a step forward and then we're going to go 2 steps back, and then we start again and we take another step forward. It is part of the process.
Substance use disorder is a chronic disease that lasts a lifetime. Federal money is coming to South Dakota to help fight the opioid crisis. Avera will use the $1 million grant to make sure doctors and law enforcement in communities across South Dakota know how to respond to patients who are struggling with opioids, because it's different than other addictions.
The old model for addictions is total abstinence. In this case, we're not saying use opioids. We're saying we need to use another medication to help that person deal with these so they can move on. Otherwise, it's almost impossible for some people to get off of these on their own.
How healthcare providers are responding to this deadly crisis. First, here are more faces of addiction.
The tricky part of addiction is that often users are in denial, and getting them help can be a major struggle. That has families turning to interventionists to get their loved ones into treatment. But as Brady Mallory shows you, that option can be expensive and difficult to find.
At Keystone Treatment and Outreach Center, Matt Walls knows what it's like to help people find their way.
I get to see miracles every day.
Walls had one of his own more than 20 years ago when he was a teenager, addicted to drugs and alcohol.
In a word, I was living in hell.
His family had an intervention, and he says it helped save his life.
I wasn't really thrilled about it in the moment because I couldn't see past my own nose. I couldn't see anything. I didn't realize how my actions were hurting other people.
Mary Ann Giebink is a certified interventionist and runs Addiction Solution 605. She says it's her job to help someone accept and find treatment, and also to help unify the entire family.
Everybody kind of gets healthy together because it really is a family illness.
Giebink says an interventionist may actually stay with the client for several months, and ideally several years. She also says an intervention shouldn't be a last resort, because waiting for someone to hit rock bottom could be too late.
I remember one mom talking about she noticed that there were spoons missing. And that's when she realized that, her daughter was using heroin.
As for Matt Walls, he says he lost his way, but he's glad his family gave him a roadmap to put him on a better path.
What I'm grateful for is that my parents and loved ones cared enough to hire a professional to come together in solidarity and to do a loving intervention on me and offer me a choice between life or death.
Giebing says an intervention can cost $4,000 to $10,000. She recommends researching your options, including state aid and what treatment centers may offer. Well, once someone admits they have an addiction, they have to find help. Don Jorgensen takes us to a methadone clinic.
The Sioux Falls Treatment Center is the only certified opiate treatment program in South Dakota. Deborah Ballanzar and Kimberly Brown are both patients here who are trying to beat their addictions to opiates.
It took me a while. It got to be so bad that I wasn't paying bills. Things were getting shut off.
It cost me pretty much everything, which is kind of funny because I took them to make things better.
Both their stories are different, yet still similar. Their addictions started with written prescriptions that gradually grew worse. Their addictions nearly cost them their lives.
You know, I woke up in the hospital over there in Oregon. I didn't even know what happened. My granddaughter told me I didn't even know who I was. I didn't know my name, but I knew my granddaughter's name. That's all. And when my granddaughter told me that, it broke my heart. And I'm not just doing it for me, but for my family and my grandkids.
Brown says she lost everything, her husband and
my children.
Her 7 children, 3 of which you see here, were eventually taken from her.
They are my everything, but there was a period of time where literally I couldn't function.
Brown and Ballanzar are doing much better thanks to the Sioux Falls Treatment Center.
We're using a medication called methadone in conjunction with a structured program where patients come in initially 6 days a week, receive counseling, receive urine drug screens, you know, so that's really what makes it a lot different than your typical treatment program.
Methadone, which they get once a day, helps patients wean themselves off from opiates, which Ray says can take anywhere from 6 months to 2 years.
The methadone just really helps me with cravings. I don't crave to use any other drugs because I'm at a place where I feel okay.
After 30 days of being in a program, over 90% of our patients are free of opiate use. Yeah.
From the state capitol to South Dakota classrooms, there's a push to equip more places with opioid overdose reversal drugs known as Narcan.
If we have a student that is having a medical issue, we want to make sure that we can provide them the care that they need.
There are also more places to turn for help, resources that can save lives. When we return.
Hopefully, we'll never have to use it. That would be my hope.
That was 2 years ago when Minnehaha County deputies first learned how to administer Narcan. This year, the sheriff's office has used it dozens of times, as often as 3 to 5 times a week.
We're going in the wrong direction, but we're mirroring what's happening in America, and it's very concerning.
Sioux Falls police officers are also armed with the opioid antidote. That includes school resource officers. But there is some question over who can administer Narcan. A state senator plans to introduce a bill specifying that school nurses may administer it to students.
And it does no harm if the person is misdiagnosed and is given a dose and they don't have a drug in their system. It does no physical harm to them, so it's a very safe thing to administer.
Current state law says a relative, friend, or close third party can provide it to an overdose patient. Narcan is available at any pharmacy without a prescription. U.S. doctors are also making changes. Last year, they wrote out 19% fewer opioid prescriptions compared to 10 years earlier. But the CDC says that still adds up to 58 opioid prescriptions for every 100 Americans. Locally, Sanford Health is focusing on chronic pain. In the last 2 years, doctors have written out 38% fewer prescriptions.
And what we have found is that if done properly and appropriately, what they find was, you know what, my pain wasn't any worse but I don't have trouble sleeping. I don't have some of the complications related to pain medication. I'm more alert. I feel better, and my pain hasn't gotten a whole lot worse.
In addition to smaller doses, doctors are recommending patients try acupuncture and physical therapy. Sanford hopes to reduce opioid prescriptions even more. They are now focusing on alternatives for those non-chronic pain after surgery or with broken bones. Avera is also responding to the crisis. The Avera Addiction Care Center broke ground this summer. By the end of 2019, the $8 million facility will be the first standalone residential treatment center on a healthcare campus in South Dakota. The Avera on Louise campus at $174 million is the largest building project in Sioux Falls history. Along with state-of-the-art surgery, genetic testing, and sports medicine, 2 buildings will be dedicated to the treatment of addiction. The groundbreaking for the 32-bed facility within the medical campus is a step toward changing the perception of addiction.
We still haven't embraced the idea and the understanding that addiction is a medical disease.
Dr. Stanley says that applies to patients too.
So I'm not pointing to others. I'm saying people with addictions. They think it's a character flaw. They're afraid to come forward. They think they just need to get over it. Well, we don't ask people to get over diabetes or other medical illnesses. They need help.
Avera's new facility will be part of the Hazelden Betty Ford Patient Care Network and will have addictionologists on staff, doctors who specialize in addiction. Dr. Stanley says there is no single right way to treat substance use disorder.
Some people really utilize faith, and some people really need a strong peer support. Some need medication intervention. Some will be enlightened by the use of genetic testing.
Addiction is also a chronic disease that must be managed over a lifetime. Avera plans to offer follow-ups and aftercare once patients leave the 28-day program.
We know that up to a year or longer, the brain is still recovering its normal function.
Dr. Stanley stresses the urgency of education and early intervention.
And we're seeing our youngest, our best, and our brightest damaged and dying. We have to respond to this, and I truly think that we have the power to do treatment now, but one of the things that's holding us back is our perspective of this, our viewpoint of this, the biases that we bring into this issue. So I believe that has to resolve for us to move forward.
Insurance copays can be extremely high when it comes to inpatient treatment, and some people don't have insurance. That's where Emily's Hope comes in. I have set up a fund in my daughter's name to help offset the cost of treatment through the Avera McKinnon Foundation. We've put links on how you can help in this cause on KELOLAND.com. In many cases, help and hope are just a phone call or text message away.
And being able to tell somebody about it, because I think there's still so much stigma attached to it that people don't feel comfortable talking about it. So we just want to be there for people.
We'll let you know how to reach out when we come back.
South Dakota Opioid Hotline. What zip code are you calling from?
Dial 211 anytime on any day and you'll be connected with someone who knows exactly how to help you find the resources you need. To contact the Opioid Resource Hotline directly, call 1-800-920-4343. You can find all of these numbers on KELOLAND.com. Just go to our opioid crisis page. While you're there, you can learn more about Emily's Hope. I started Emily's Hope because I never gave up hope on my daughter, no matter how difficult things seemed. Now that she is no longer with us, that hope must live on through others. My hope is that no family needs suffer an overdose death. My hope is that people struggling are able to break free from the chains of addiction. It will take the efforts, both large and small, of all of us to make this happen. This is a community-wide problem, and all of our children are at risk. Help us to start the conversation to end the stigma surrounding addiction and replace judgment with compassion and punishment with treatment. Together, we can begin tackling the plague of opioid abuse in our community and save lives. I do this work to raise awareness in honor of my daughter's name and to ensure that Emily's legacy lives on.